You might have seen Vladimir Putin, the infamous Russian president, on the news or YouTube, and like most people, you might have noticed something strange about him. Yes, his strange walk. His weird one arm straight and another arm just swinging around walk. Why does he walk like that? Is something wrong with him mentally or physically? Well, the answer may surprise you all. Stick till the end of the video to find out. Hello and welcome to our channel, a daily dose of a world leader cocktail. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell on. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. Let's start with Putin's introduction. Vladimir Putin is a former Russian intelligence officer and politician who served as Russia's president from 1999 to 2008 and from 2012 to the present. He was also the country's prime minister from 1999 to 2008 and again from 2008 to 2012. Vladimir Putin worked as a foreign intelligence officer in the KGB, the Soviet Union's foreign intelligence and domestic security agency, for 15 years. He retired from active KGB service in 1990 with the rank of lieutenant colonel. Now, a lot of you might confuse his walk with Parkinson's disease, but researchers say otherwise. They say that it's merely because of KGB weapons training. Neurology professor Bastiaan Bloem of the Radboud University Medical Center in the Netherlands and colleagues had observed Putin walking with his right arm rigid while his left arm swings freely. Researchers believe it is related to weapons training he received while serving in the Soviet KGB, where he rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel before the Soviet Union disintegrated. According to this manual, KGB operatives were instructed to keep their weapon in the right hand close to their chest and to move forward with one side, usually the left, presumably allowing subjects to draw the gun as quickly as possible when confronted with a foe. Researchers from Portugal, Italy, and the Netherlands wrote. The KGB was the Soviet Union's main security agency, where Putin reportedly served for 16 years. The manual demonstrates how KGB agents were trained and instructed to keep their right hand close to their chests. Researchers believe the instruction allowed the operative to draw his gun faster than a potential adversary, a move similar to gunslingers of the Wild West. We propose that this new gait pattern, which we call gunslinger gait, may be the result of a behavioral adaptation, possibly triggered by KGB or other forms of weapons training in which trainees are taught to keep their right hand close to their chest while walking, allowing them to quickly draw a gun when faced with a foe. They continued. They discovered a similar walk in Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian defense ministers Anatoly Serdyukov and Sergei Ivanov, and senior Russian military commander Anatoly Sidorov. Ivanov, like Putin, is a retired KGB officer who served in Europe during the Cold War. According to the researchers, Serdyukov and Sidorov both received military training. Medvedev is an outlier in this group, a lawyer by training who has no clear ties to the KGB and did not serve in the military. However, he may have received brief reservist training during his university years. Since Putin chose him to be president from 2008 to 2012, between Putin's second and third terms, Medvedev's body language and speech cadence have often resembled that of his mentor. According to the researchers, substantial evidence suggests that Medvedev is being coached to sound, look, and most importantly, walk like the president, citing Western media reports. According to the study, Putin's asymmetrical arm swing is a behavioral adaptation resulting from military or intelligence training. Bloem admitted that his team does not have access to Putin's medical records or doctors. However, he stated that Putin's unusual walk is the subject of a small but growing debate among medical experts. It's an unusual study, but it has a very serious message about neurological observation, he told AFP over the phone. Bloem went on to say that Putin's abnormal gait has been noted previously. We are putting forward a new hypothesis, but very cautiously, he said. It also suggests that Putin has been using steroids, which may cause him to become more aggressive. Lord Owen stated on Times Radio, "Examine his face and notice how it has changed. He now has an oval face. I don't believe people who say, oh, it's plastic surgery or Botox. He's either on anabolic steroids as a bodybuilder. He's very proud of his muscles and strips to the waist and all that, or corticosteroids. If you're on these drugs, you'll have this expression." Putin's mental and physical health has recently been questioned following his troops' invasion of Ukraine. Russian forces continue to cause death and destruction in Ukraine by shelling various cities throughout the country. On March 18, Putin signed a treaty incorporating Crimea into the Russian Federation, claiming that the peninsula had always been a part of Russia. The United States and the European Union imposed economic sanctions on more of Putin's political allies in the following days. Following ratifying the treaty by both houses of the Russian parliament, Putin signed legislation on March 21 that formalized Russia's annexation of Crimea. In April 2014, unidentified gunmen armed with Russian weapons seized government buildings across southeastern Ukraine, sparking an armed conflict with the Kyiv government. Putin referred to the region as Novorossiya, or New Russia, evoking imperial claims, and despite all indications of direct Russian involvement in the insurgency, Putin steadfastly denied any involvement. Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 carrying 298 passengers crashed in eastern Ukraine on July 17, 2014, and overwhelming evidence indicated that it was shot down by a Russian-made surface-to-air missile fired from rebel-controlled territory. On February 27, 2015, opposition leader Boris Nemtsov was assassinated near the Kremlin, just days after speaking out against Russian intervention in Ukraine. Nemtsov was the most recent Putin critic assassinated or killed in suspicious circumstances. A British public inquiry officially charged Putin in the 2006 murder of former Federal Security Service officer Alexander Litvinenko in January 2016. Litvinenko, who had spoken out against Russian government ties to organized crimes before and after defecting to the UK, was poisoned with polonium-210 in a London hotel bar while drinking tea. By 2016, Putin's involvement in Syria had shifted the balance of power, and evidence emerged that Russia was engaged in a broad hybrid warfare campaign aimed at undermining the power and legitimacy of Western democracies. Many attacks blurred the line between cyber warfare and cybercrime, while others recalled Cold War-era direct Soviet interventionism. Russian fighter jets routinely violated NATO airspace in the Baltic, and a pair of sophisticated cyber attacks on Ukraine's power grid knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of people. Over 2 months, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko reported that his country had been subjected to more than 6,000 cyber intrusions, with virtually every sector of Ukrainian society being targeted. Vladimir Putin invaded and annexed the Ukrainian Autonomous Republic of Crimea after losing an ally. He also instigated separatist uprisings in Donetsk and Luhansk, two eastern Ukrainian regions where fighting between pro-Russian militias and the Ukrainian government raged for years. Volodymyr Zelensky, who ran on a populist reform platform, was elected president of Ukraine in 2019 with more than 70% of the vote. Putin ordered a troop buildup along Russia's border with Ukraine in 2021. And Russian forces invaded Ukraine in February 2022 after he announced the start of a special military operation. Vladimir Putin's efforts to re-establish Russia as a significant world power appear to have yielded some results. According to a new Pew Research Center poll of 25 countries, Russia now plays a more important role in international affairs than it did a decade ago. However, greater stature does not imply greater popularity. According to the same poll, public opinion in Russia is overwhelmingly negative toward Putin and the Russian Federation. Globally, only 34% of people have a favorable opinion of Russia, and only about a quarter or 26% believe Putin will do the right thing in international affairs. Only 4 countries, the Philippines, Tunisia, South Korea, and Greece, have at least half of their people positive about Russia. Majorities in North America and much of Europe, on the other hand, view Russia negatively. Attitudes toward Putin follow a similar pattern, with only the Philippines and Tunisia expressing more than half confidence in the Russian leader. Putin's foreign military victories after 2008 were achieved by combining small units of elite forces, mercenaries, and local militia groups with Russian air power. This provided Moscow with significant leverage at a low cost during interventions in Georgia, Nagorno-Karabakh, Syria, Libya, Mali, and Ukraine twice in 2014, illegally annexing Crimea and then establishing self-proclaimed Russian statelets in Luhansk and Donetsk. In each case, Russia moved quickly and ruthlessly in ways that the Western world was powerless to counter, except through graduated sanctions regimes. nothing that could change the reality. Putin was skilled at inventing new facts on the ground. Putin now has few options but to press on to escalate the conflict within Ukraine or beyond its borders. The current situation is predisposed to escalation, and Europe has arrived at a critical juncture in its recent history. After failing to seize the government in Kyiv before President Zelensky's forces or the outside world could react, Moscow switched to Plan B. This was a more maneuverous military approach that would surround Kyiv and move in on other Ukrainian cities such as Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, Donetsk, Mariupol, and Mykolaiv, simply suffocating Ukrainian armed resistance. At the same time, Kyiv itself was threatened with capitulation or destruction. Ukraine accused Russia of bombing a children's hospital in the besieged port of Mariupol today during a ceasefire agreed upon to allow civilians trapped in the city to flee. Direct strike of Russian troops at the maternity hospital. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky wrote on Twitter, "People and children are trapped beneath the rubble." Putin recognized the independence of the self-proclaimed People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk on February 21, effectively nullifying the 2015 Minsk peace agreement. On February 24, Putin announced the start of a special military operation, and explosions could be heard in cities across Ukraine. Putin, 63, projects a masculine strength and physical prowess, aided by stunts such as half-naked horseback riding and driving a Formula One car. No matter how the world looks at him, he's always smiling as if he has nothing to worry about. What do you think about Putin as a leader? Let us know in the comments section. That's it for today. We will see you in the next video.